Hello lovely people, today I feel very excited because finally I'm gonna be testing these One Audio 8-inch mid-bass drivers. Before we start, I would like to thank Am from Blade Eyes for sending me these drivers. Now I have almost a full One Audio system in my car. So what we're gonna be doing today is I'm gonna be making an impedance sweep. We're gonna measure the near field response. We're gonna measure the far field response. As well, in this video, I will be comparing this driver with this one because this is an 8-inch mid-bass driver. Yeah, it is a dedicated mid-bass driver. However, this driver is a competitor for some other companies like Stevens Audio, Stereo Integrity that have 8-inch drivers as well. And these are very budget friendly. As I mentioned, they cost $150. So if you haven't seen my unboxing video, watch that one that I did like a few weeks ago or something. And we really want to see how they perform. I'm going to be using it as a mid-bass up to like 200 Hertz from the kicks. However, these can be used with horns because if you're running like an SQL system with horns under the dash, these might be a perfect pair. I don't know, we're gonna see. And that's why I brought this one. So this one is a Visaton BG20. It is a budget driver as well. It costs like 40 pounds. This is the same 8-inch driver, so it's the same size. However, this one you can see with a whizzer cone. It is a full range driver intended to play all the way up to 20k. So it's gonna be very good comparison with the on-axis like far field response, how the One Audio compares to the actual dedicated full range driver. Now, this driver has, as I mentioned in the previous video, very low inductance, so it should be able to play very high. So I will be testing this driver with a recommended crossover of 60 Hz 24 dB, and I'm gonna run it all the way with the open crossovers just to see how it does with the distortion. Now, another thing that I want to show you is these things. So you can see I have a contraption like this. So in my car, which now is in the garage, so I don't have it, I have 6.5-inch mid-bass in the kicks in IB. So these will be tested in full AB. I'm not going to put them in the doors because I need to modify the doors, cut the opening and stuff. I will be testing it only in the kicks. Now, in the kicks, I have these rings, which are aluminum rings from China. They cost 20 pounds. I love them. I installed them in a few cars as well. For the price, they're amazing and very sturdy. Now, the problem is that these rings are much smaller than the actual driver. So I needed to come up with something that I could mount these in existing locations without modifying anything, and I came up with this. So this was printed to me by Elvis, so thank you very much. He did help me to model it in I don't know what he uses for the 3D, but basically this is like an adapter ring that goes on top of my existing ring. So this is a 6.5 rings in the kicks. I'm gonna put this one on top, and then I'm gonna put the driver on top with this, and it will look something like this, like a sandwich. So this allows me, if you can see in there, for the excursion, because there is a gap, like 5-6 millimeter gap. This mid-bass has 6 millimeters of X-Max, so it should be fine, and it allows me to mount these drivers in existing 6.5-inch locations without literally modifying anything. I just need to bolt this with some bolts, and we'll be ready to use it. So I done all the measurements for these drivers. Let's jump into the laptop. I'm gonna show you the distortion, frequency response, and impedance, and then when I'm gonna get my car back, I'm gonna put them in the car, and we're gonna measure in-car frequency response and just see how they play. And we're going to start with the impedance graph. So this red one is the Visaton BG20. So this is an 8-inch driver. So you can see the impedance like 6.5 ohms or something. And it has some wiggles in the impedance as typical for any kind of driver. Now the One Audio, so you see these, the peaks are two different sizes. So what I did on purpose, I broke in only one driver and the other one is brand new and not breaking in at all. So this is the difference. Now, probably it would need a bit more time to break in properly because the FS advertises about like 70, 71 hertz, and we see here is 83. So one is 84 and the other one is slightly like 83. So after the break-in, it dropped a few hertz, but probably they need a bit more time. But what changed is the QES, the electrical Q. But from this, we can see that it is advertised a 3 ohm driver. You can see 3.2, 3.3 ohms, which is great. It's going to pull quite a lot of power from the amplifier. And the wiggles on the impedance graph is only on the higher frequencies. You can see here, there's nothing at the bottom. So even if we have the stamped steel basket, there's no ringing because any kind of ringing would show up in the impedance graph. And there's nothing. Something here about 500, and most of the stuff is happening above. So this like 1.6 probably is going to be the surround something, and some other stuff happening all the way up. But again, these are dedicated mid-bass drivers. So in my car, I'm going to cross them lower than 200, 170, 180, somewhere here. But if you're going to use them all the way up, they're going to be good because the inductance is very low. So the Visaton, as I mentioned, it is a full range driver and is dedicated to play all the way up to 20k. And for this one, you can see the inductance, it's much higher compared to One Audio. So One Audio inductance is very, very low because it's super flat all the way up, and that would be an indication of low distortion. So we're gonna have a look at that. Now, with the frequency response, what I did, I made a baffle, but it's just a temporary baffle, just from scrap wood, so it's not perfect. These are the responses of both of these drivers in near field response. So literally a few millimeters from the dust cap, and we can see from the near field, it plays all the way up. For comparison, the Visaton driver, I'm just going to remove these, as well, plays all the way up to what, 14, 15k. And then the Wizard Cone kind of takes over. The Visaton is a bit smoother from the near field response, but with One Audio is not bad at all. The main difference is going to be Q and FS, because this Visaton is like 40 hertz and Q of 0.7 or something, and the One Audio is 70 hertz and Q 0.5. So the roll off is very, very different. But in general, yeah, they do play all the way up. Now we have something here as well. 1.6, so this is the same as we had with the impedance graph, and it's something happening here, but it's going to be very rare cases you're going to play this driver that high. You could pair it in a two-way with a low playing tweeter if you want, but I'm going to be using it in a three-way. Now, the on-axis response from 1 meter is a little bit different. So this roll off at 200, don't really look at it because this is going to be because of my baffle. There's no baffle reinforcement, so it kind of drops off because the lower frequencies, depending on the baffle width, they kind of cancel everything. We do have a little bit of a scoop out here, and the difference is between these two drivers. Again, one is broken in and the other one is not. So the yellow one is broken in driver, so it has a bit more of this mid-range compared to the other one, but the top end is very, very similar. And they do play all the way up to 5.5k, which is amazing, even for if you're gonna have them in kicks like aimed at you on axis. You could pair it with even with a tweeter that plays down to 2.5k, like down to here, and just cross it. It's very, very nice. They do play very high. So it is kind of a mid-range that has a bit more excursion than the typical mid-range. It's a very, very universal driver. You can easily use it with it in a two-way, as I mentioned, with a tweeter or with horns playing down to 1k. No issues at all. Amazing to see. Now, just for comparison, the Visaton, you can see it is a bit smoother. The roll-off is the same, and that's what I mean is because of the baffle, not the driver. But the Visaton plays a bit higher, like up to 10k. Yeah, you can see here. If you push the top end, it could play a bit higher. But yeah, these One Audio are like full range drivers. Very, very nice to see. Now, let's have a look at the distortion of these. The first measurement that I took was the driver that I didn't break in, and I took the measurement without any crossover. So this is at 90 decibels. And I saw this like, okay, 2% is like, not really good. But then I swapped out the driver for the one that was broken in, and bam, there you go. All the distortion goes away when you break in the driver. So this is caused by the stiff suspension. So this is with no crossovers at all. Playing at 90 dB, you can see the distortion starts to rise a little bit, like below 50 hertz, and it doesn't go out of control at all. So NIB, technically, on 90 dB, you can play them without crossovers. Yes, like at 23, it rises up to what, 6%. But again, there's no music there. If you're playing down to 40, down to 30 hertz, at 90 decibels of volume, you can play them without crossovers. Now, with the crossovers is like this. So the crossover is just reduce this. I did cross them at a recommended 60 hertz, 24 dB, and it does lower the distortion like below 90 hertz here. So it's something like this. Now this is going to be like intended use with intended crossover, and we can see that in most of the range is 0.5% or lower. So this is very, very clean. We do have a little peak here at about 250 hertz that goes up to 1%, but it's just nothing. So if we're going to exclude this 200 to 400, it's 0.5% or less. It's very, very nice. I'm not looking at this because this, you're not going to play it full range all the way up. You're going to cross it into a tweeter. So even if you're going to cross it at 2-3K, this is going to go down. So it's very nice to see that a 90 dB, 1 meter, everything is below 1% and most of it is below 0.5%. Now for comparison, this is my Visaton driver. So this Visaton driver is much cheaper and it does have lower distortion. It does need a higher crossover, so I did cross it at 80, but this probably would need to be crossed at like 100 hertz, but even an 80 is not that bad. The main difference between these two is that the Visaton is very low power handling. It can handle maybe like 30-40 watts. It's not intended for high SPL. It's intended to be used like in bookshelf speakers as a full range speaker, and it is made by like a well-known company, and this driver is almost legendary because it's been run for I don't know how many years, and a lot of people really, really like it. So this Visaton, you can see it does have a lower distortion, like 0.2, 0.3%, apart from this little peak and the higher frequencies. But 0.5%, it's amazing. Now, for example, without the break-in, you have all of this mountain. So yeah, break in your drivers before you use them. This is a very typical example of what is the difference between the driver that is broken and not broken. So these distortion numbers are very, very nice. So now we know that for 150 bucks or 200 pounds, you can get a extremely good performing driver. Now the main question is, how does it perform inside of a car? Oh man, I'm already swearing. I thought it's gonna be easier. It's always harder than you think, and the worst thing is that this side is much easier than that one because on that side I have even less space. So an 8-inch, actually, it's much bigger than a 6.5. Man, like when you compare it, this looks like a baby. Oh, okay. So I have a little gasket here. I'm just gonna try to squeeze this one in there. I will need to cut the carpet as well. I cut the MLV, the factory MLV, so just like that. It does fit on this side. I'm not sure how it's gonna be on that side, but yeah, like that. I have the bolts. I'm gonna screw it in and it's fine. But that one, I think that side will need a bit cutting. Okay, so I have one of them in. You can see it fits very snugly with all the bolts and everything. I mean, the spade connectors and everything. So I had to cut the factory MLV. As I mentioned, I have no deadening added, no nothing. Everything is factory here. The only thing that I didn't account for is the orientation with the bolt pattern, because now it's a bit like this. I would like the insignia would be like a bit down, but yeah, I'm gonna probably redo those rings. I don't know. So this goes back like that. It covers, and yeah, something like that. So yeah, that insignia, I would need to twist it a little bit, but I cannot because of the bolt pattern. This is not gonna go back normally because it's gonna cover probably, yeah, it's covering a little bit of the driver. So not sure, maybe I'm gonna leave it, maybe I'm gonna cut it. Oh, actually just like that. Yeah, there we go. Cool. So one side is done. It took me probably half an hour to do this side. That one, oh man, I'm not looking forward to that one. Okay, as I predicted, I have a problem. So this one, if any, probably nobody's seen how I did this. So this is a hole that goes through the wheel arch. And the problem is that here, if you can see, this bracket is right next to the ring. So for a 6.5 wanting to fit it, it's kind of okay. But this one, it fits everywhere apart that one. So that bracket has to go. Now I need to find out what this bracket holds, because I think it's nothing structural, but I think it holds only whatever that is. So I need to remove this plastic just to have a look what that is. And I'm not going to remove it totally. I just need to remove this corner so that I can slide it in. But yeah, this bracket has to go. Okay, so with some slight modifications, I did manage to fit this ring. The only thing I had to do is to cut this one a little bit off, so it does fit in there. It didn't fit over there a little bit because it was touching the actual metal of the footwell. So I chopped off the ring a little bit, took off the ring. Now, moment of truth. Is this going to fit? Because if it's not, oh my god, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Okay, this to remove it a little bit. Yes, it does fit. It does fit. Look at the gaps. Oh my god. So okay, now I'm happy, because I was stressing out a little bit, because when I was speaking to Am about this, he was like, what size speakers are you running in your kicks? I was like, 6.5, but I'm gonna fit 8. It's fine, it's no problem. And then I was thinking to myself, like, can I? So yes, apparently I can. Okay, so I did manage to get them in. That one I rotated a little bit just for it to look a bit better. So now it's good. It's still not perfect. I would want it to look down, but it is what it is. That's fine. I cannot do anything much without redoing the 3D ring. And this one is looking down, looking good. So I'm happy that this was kinda good, but probably I'll have to cut it a little bit. It has a lot of breathing space. It's not going to be blocked by anything. All the vents are clear. So now I have a laptop. Let's measure. Okay, I had a listen. I listened to them with no front, no nothing, just by themselves. I listened without crossovers and I listened with crossovers. And my impressions, nah. Nah, I'm joking. No, obviously I'm joking. Yeah, they can kick ass. Like, seriously, they do kick. And the fact that they play high, exactly the same as we saw from the actual frequency response measurements before, that they play all the way. Even from the kicks, they do have some top end, not like Illusion or the Status. They do play high and they do kick a lot. However, they do need power. They are very sensitive, but if you can feed them more power, oh man. Okay, let me show you very quickly. So what I did, I just did a literal swap, and I didn't change anything. I didn't do anything. I just took a measurement of the whole response, how it was tuned with the Illusion audio. So I didn't change absolutely nothing. Just put the drivers in, and I have exactly the same response as I had with the Illusion audio. So that means that the sensitivity is the same as these little guys here, and the EQ works. Now question, why EQ works? Because of the location. When you change the driver without changing the location, the response is staying the same. So let me show you what I mean. This is the one audio on the left side, which is this one, deeper in the kick. So obviously I have a bit more bottom end, and this is with no crossovers. You can see it plays down to 50, and then it drops off a little bit, but it trails off down to 20, 30, just on a lower level. And we do have the top end as well, all the way. It is like 10, 15 dB lower than this mountain, but there is a top end. So if you don't mind losing a lot of energy, you could EQ them flat all the way up to like 15K from the kicks, which is very surprising. And this is the Illusion audio, exactly the same location. So you can see the one audio plays a little bit lower, maybe like 4 dB, but like 30 hertz, so it's fine. Then this is the same, and the top end, the one audio, plays much higher. The Illusion, you can see it starts to roll off at what, 3K, and then it kind of goes down, and there's no top end. However, these, they play all the way. Now, yes, so you have all of these dibs because of the cabin stuff happening. But yeah, they do play high. On the right side is very similar situation. It's just a little bit different because my right kick is My right kick install is different location. It's not deep in the kick, it's on the side. So the response is a bit different as well. But again, they do play down to 50. Very nice. Then roll off a little bit. And the top end. If I'm comparing with the Illusion Audio, right, you can see the top end. These play much higher and above, what, 5, 6K. These are still playing where the Illusion Audio rolls down. Now, yes, I did mount Illusion Audio inverted, so the cone doesn't do anything. However, these, even inverted, play all the way up, which is super surprising. I don't know. And when we have left and right, both of them, they play very, very similar. You can see, especially the top end, extremely similar. That's why they kind of image, even from the kicks when I was listening, like the sensor is like somewhere there inside the dash, but it does image and not bad. So without any EQ, without nothing, from the kicks, you could listen to them from the kicks, not from the doors. From the doors, it would be much better. However, in the doors, you would be losing all of this. Now, in regards to the volume, in the DSP, I do have them pulled down by like 7 dB, just because the Illusion Audio and these are super sensitive. So in order to match with these, I had to pull them down. Now when I'm going to replace these with the One Audio mids, then I can pull them up maybe by like 5 dB or something. So they are pulled down. So without the crossovers, I did manage to play them something like 80-85% without distortion. When I put 60 Hertz 24 dB link with Strally crossover, you can whack it all the way up and they would take even more. So now I have an amplifier that does like 110 watts into 4 ohms, so a bit more into 3 ohms because these are 3 ohm drivers. But yeah, these are cool. I'm super happy about them. It's a bit hot inside. So now I'm just gonna replace the widebands. I'm gonna put some other tweeters and I'm gonna have almost full One Audio system. Next in line, if you heard One Audio, they're gonna start making a 10-inch woofer. So that's a 10-inch. I just need to wait until it's gonna go into production. But yeah, for the price, like obviously you're gonna ask how does Illusion Audio compare with these and with the Status? As I mentioned, the Illusion Audio kicks better than the Status. These on the low end, I want to say, to me, they're almost identical, maybe, but no, actually no. I want to say maybe they have a little bit sharper kick, but to be honest, they're extremely similar to the Illusion Audio. The main difference is the top end, because with these, you can hear the vocals in the top end, whereas with Illusion Audio, it kind of rolls off, you cannot hear much. So that's the main difference. But for 150 bucks, it's a no-brainer. If you can fit 8, I don't know if there's a better driver for the price. I really don't know. And I'm really not exaggerating. Like 150 bucks, 200 pounds, 100 pounds each. I don't know. Maybe Fatal Pros, but I haven't tested any Fatal Pros. Maybe those, because those are a bit cheaper. But yeah, highly recommended. So that's it. It was a long video, but thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.